Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror and sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today is a special episode because I will be welcoming one of the Cenobites from the Hellraiser movies, the first two for that matter, Simon Bamford, the Butterball Cenobite in Hellraiser 1 and 2. We're going to have him on the show today. I can't wait. It's going to be pretty cool. I'm a big Hellraiser fan, and, you know, I've had Barbie Wilde on the show, and now I get to have Simon Bamford on the show, and it's going to be pretty cool and stuff. He's a classically trained British actor. Find out about his theater background and why he quit acting after Clive Barker's Nightbreed, or he didn't quit acting, he quit movies for that matter, and stuff, or did he? Let's find out. So yeah, here is my interview with Simon Bamford.
Hello, Tommy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, sir?
Excellent. Thank you. Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much for taking the time today. This is such an honor.
Oh, that's fine. It's mine. The pleasure is mine. It's a beautiful day here in England. How's it in California?
It's pretty cold. It's about 35 degrees out.
Gee, that is cold.
Yeah, wintertime. So, going back to the beginning, growing up in England, did you fall in love with acting at an early age?
Yes. I had a very good headmaster at my primary school, which was, I don't know, I suppose about 8 years old, and he was very into theatre, so encouraged us to be in his school productions. So that's kind of where it all started. And from there, I joined some amateur dramatic groups. But I was lucky that I lived quite close to a city called Leicester in the UK, and they have a very, very high standard of professional theatre here. There. So, and they gave me some work backstage and working on the stage door. So when I got to 15, 16, so I had a good training ground with them.
And were there any movie stars that you idolized?
Oh, gosh, yes. James Mason, I think, was the one who I always thought was quite an incredible actor. Do you know who I mean? Oh,
I love James Mason. I love James Mason. He's like one of my favorites.
I always worry these days when you say names like that, people will go, no, never heard of them, which would be such a shame because I was lucky enough to do the Fright Night documentary a few years ago, and which meant studying Roddy McDowall, who was very similar kind of James Mason ilk in that he came up through the Hollywood system back when in the days when they really kind of the studios really trained actors to be their stars, to be their kind of their leading PR people.
Yeah.
And they trained them specifically for all of those things. And I think both Roddy and James had incredible diction and a great understanding, because the training was so good, and of course you don't have that system anymore.
No.
So actors have to learn the skills in a different way. Plus, of course, the whole dynamics of acting for film and TV is very different. I saw something recently. The great dames of English theatre were talking in a film that I watched about how that they thought back in the days, back in the 50s and 60s, that they were acting very naturalistically, but now when they look back, it doesn't feel very naturalistic. But naturalistic is a style that's constantly changing. Obviously, with the birth of reality TV, that has changed everything as well, and the internet, of course, YouTube. But it's still not completely naturalistic, because total naturalistic, it would be dull and boring. You know, it would be hours of people sitting around saying nothing. But so there's always a kind of heightened sense to it.
Yeah, and a lot of people do the method too.
Yes, I tried that a few times. In fact, I studied who's the famous actor who Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah.
I did a masterclass with him online, and he was the kind of the great exponent of the method. And one of the things I found interesting was that he learns his lines, or at least he says he learns his lines, not by saying them out loud, but by writing them down over and over and over and over again. So that the idea being that when he actually goes on set and says the lines, it's the very first time he's ever said them, which kind of gives them a freshness to it. I personally read this and I thought, I'll try it in the next project I did, and then I bottled out. I thought, no, I need to know what this sounds like in my own head. I don't want to hear it in my own head for the first time with a camera and lots of crew standing watching me. So he's a very brave actor, I think, Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah, he is a very brave actor. At what age did you make your stage debut?
Professional or amateur?
Either way.
The amateur one would have been the school production, so kind of 7, 8 years old. Professional. Well, the first thing I got paid for doing was actually Quadrophenia, the film Quadrophenia. Just before I went to drama school, I moved down to London to go to drama school, and while I was waiting to start, I heard about this casting that was going on. Well, it was just for extras. And so I got a job on Quadrophenia just as an extra. So that was the first time I was paid to do anything. Then I went to drama school and I was lucky enough to meet Clive Barker and everybody else. So that kind of changed everything. And the first paid professional work I did, when I left drama school, I worked with Clive actually, because I'd met Clive and Doug Bradley and Oliver Parker. While I was at drama school, they ran a theatre company just up the road from the drama school, and so Clive came to see me in a production and asked me if I wanted to join them when I graduated. But that was fringe, so it wasn't really paid. The idea was it was profit share, so the profit would go back into, well, it would be shared with the company. But Clive's idea of making productions was he always had such an amazing mind and was so inventive and so creative, and he was always coming up with these incredible new things we could do, boundaries we could break, but of course that all cost money, so that all the profit tended to go back into the next production rather than coming to us. So we didn't really ever get paid for that. So the first paid one I did was a terrible show called Why Not Bangkok? And it was a sequel. I don't know if you remember, there was a show called Oh Calcutta.
Yeah.
Like a terrible nude review thing that was going about in the 60s, and this was the 70s, and this was like the sequel to Oh Calcutta with Why Not Bangkok, which kind of says it all, really. And that was my first paid job. I was ASM, assistant stage manager on that. So yes. you got
to start somewhere, though.
Yeah. Oh gosh, that was terrible. Absolutely terrible.
So you got cast in Hellraiser because Clyde saw you in a show.
Yes. Well, Clive asked me to join his French theatre company when I graduated. He saw me in the production of King Lear and asked me to join the theatre company, and then we toured around the world with the theatre company, with his theatre company, for probably a year or so until it expanded. And then I saw him occasionally. We all went off to do kind of different theatre jobs, and I saw him occasionally. He had his Books of Blood published, and he had a big party for that because they were the first things he'd ever had published. So we invited along to the launch of those. And then I didn't see him for probably a couple of years, and just rang him out the blue just to see what he was up to and what he was doing and how he was. And he'd had Rawhead Rex and another screenplay that he'd written made into films that he wasn't very happy with, and they didn't do very well. So he had persuaded the production company to let him write and direct the next one, which ended up being Hellraiser. And I just rang him at the right time, and he said, "I'm about to make this film, and do you want to play a part in it? Do you want to be a monster for me?" And so, yeah, that's how I ended up in Hellraiser, just ringing him at the right time, basically, and knowing him. You know, there's so much luck involved in the business. So much luck.
Yeah.
And I was always terrible at the old networking stuff, so I still am. And I'm terrible. I was at a convention in when was it? A few weeks ago. Oh dear, Atlanta. I was at Days of the Dead in Atlanta a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
And Ashley Lawrence was sitting next to me, and this chap came and sat next to her, and they greeted each other, and they're obviously neighbours of some kind. And we're chatting away, and it turns out he was one of the executive producers of The Walking Dead,
Mm-hmm.
and is also. And somebody said to me, "Oh, you must talk to this guy. You know, he's developing this other project, and he's a big noise." And I just couldn't. I can't do that stuff. So I'd be lousy as an actor in anywhere like LA or anything like that. It's just happened organically for me, thankfully.
Now, had you read the book before you took the part?
Hellbound Heart?
Yeah.
I think it came out about the same time as we were in production. No, I haven't read it. In fact, I went through, he talked about it, and I went through all the books of blood trying to find it, because I assumed it was one of the books of blood, but it wasn't. It was an independent novella that he'd written. So, no, when he offered it to me, I didn't know what it was or what we were doing. And it actually, the film ended up being slightly different, certainly as far as the Cenobites were concerned. Was slightly different to the way that they were described in the Hellbound Heart. For example, the lead Cenobite, which does play so well as Pinhead, was actually a female character. As I'm sure Barbie Wild would have told you.
Yeah.
Bobby and I are great friends. We're lucky enough to bump into each other at conventions around the world. So we meet up here in the UK at an airport, jet off somewhere, and drink martinis, and
Yeah.
we've been very good friends. I think we're seeing each other again in April at Detroit.
Yeah, I love Barbie. Her and I just, her and I, we just laugh like every time we talk. I mean, we have a good time. Did she make everybody laugh on the set?
Oh yeah, no, she's a bundle of fun. She's got loads of stories. She's got loads of energy. She's just lovely to be around. Just one of the good ones.
Mm-hmm. She sure is. How long did it take to apply the makeup on you?
For Butterball, mine was pretty quick, to be honest, because it was a one-piece appliance. So it was just a case of putting on a skull cap and kind of gluing that down so it didn't tear my hair out when it came off. Putting Vaseline all over any other exposed hair, so eyebrows and hairlines, and then making my mouth up around my mouth black so you couldn't see any of me through his mouth, if you see what I mean. And then the inside of the makeup was obviously made to fit exactly my face. It was very thick because I was quite skinny, and he's quite a large chap. So it took three of them to pull it down over my head, and it always got to a point, because of course he had all these chins as well, and it got to a point where it was covering my mouth and my nose, and I was worried at that point that if it got stuck there, then that would be it for me. That was the first of the don't panic attack. Breathe deeply, it'll all turn out all right.
Wow.
Oh yes, it was quite quick, probably about an hour, but they still got us into makeup kind of 4 hours before we needed. So, and then once we were in it, they glued all the edges down, and that was it. We were in it for the day, however long the day was going to be. So usually 6, 8, 10 hours, sometimes more. My makeup had no eye holes, because when he takes his glasses off, his eyes are sewn up, so there were no holes to see through. So I was completely blind once it was on. And because he cut his ears off, the character, there was no ear holes either, so I was fairly deaf. And there was no nose holes because he didn't really have a nose. So once I was in there, it was quite an intense experience.
Yeah.
Sensory deprivation.
Yeah, you look like I can imagine you'd probably be very uncomfortable with all that makeup on. I can't believe it only took like an hour. It looks like it took hours to do that.
Yeah, I mean the guys that make it, obviously they had to make a different one for each day shoot, and that took a long time, I think. in London when they were at their offices when they were going, but I think they're no longer a business, sadly. Although Neil, I can't remember his name. Oh dear, that's bad. He's one of the prosthetic artists, Neil Gorton. He's won 2 Oscars for his makeups. He did the makeup for the Iron Lady. So he's done very well for himself. And I'm working at the moment with Stuart Conran, who was only 16. He was a work experience on the Hellraiser films.
Yeah.
But he went on to do lots and lots of stuff since. So I've been working with him quite a bit on a series called Dark Cities recently, which episodes 1 to 3, I think they're available on Amazon Prime here and in the States. And he also created Roddy McDowell. He had Roddy McDowell's life cast. He actually made me Roddy McDowell's face, which was interesting. That took 3 or 4 hours to put on. But it did make me look very much like him. And then more recently, on episode 2 of The Dark Cities, I play an 85-year-old woman who's trapped in a house and haunted by the ghosts of her dead husband. And so that was like 4 hours makeup, and he did an incredible job on that. Stuart Conrad, his name is.
Nice.
I'm just about to shoot something else with him. And also, episode 3, he did a lot of prosthetics. My character had just jumped out of a moving car, so his face was all kind of cut up and bleeding and damaged. So he did a great job on that. And actually thinking about it, episode 1 of Dark Cities, I had a nasty cut to my throat at one point, and
wow!
Created a false neck for me, and I had a tube going down through my costume and out and run along the floor where you couldn't see it, where it was connected to this pressurized tank full of blood.
Yeah.
So when the damage happened to me, then the blood was like spurting out of my neck. It was a very cool effect.
Wow, must have been messy.
And I'm just about to work with them again, actually. We start filming episode 4 next week. A week today, we'll be on location.
Great.
No prosthetics on that one, so that'll be nice and easy. Just the contact lens. That's it.
That's cool. Was this in the second one? Were they long shoots?
They were long days, yes. This particular company, it's like 12-hour days every day because they have a very, very limited budget, and it's so time is very tight. So yeah, they were 12-hour days filming, and then there was another 4 hours days. Well, it's 3-4 hours to put the makeup on. Plus, of course, it takes an hour to take it all off because it's kind of super glued to your face. Kind of surgical super glue type stuff, and that takes an hour to remove at the end of the day. So, yeah, they're intense, but really rewarding. I've never ever enjoyed watching myself back on film or TV or anything. But with those projects, because it doesn't look anything like me, I quite enjoy watching them back, to be honest, and there's something very liberating about looking in a mirror as an actor and seeing somebody else looking back at you. It just releases you from all those hang-ups that you've built up over your own life about looking at yourself back in the mirror, if that makes any sense. You're looking at somebody else, and if you're looking at somebody else, then that's fine. They can do whatever you want to. You've got no preconceptions about what they can and cannot do there. They are a completely new person. Now that should be, whether it's the same face looking back or not, but it isn't. It's a lovely thing to look in a mirror and see somebody else looking back. This next one, although I haven't got prosthetics, I've got quite a big wig and this contact lens, and I've grown a beard, so I do look quite different in that one too. Yeah. It's a nice series for me. I get to play a different character in each episode. And each character is so totally different to the others. So that's kind of why I went into theatre and to becoming an actor, because it's fun to play different people. And more and more, sadly, the way that casting works, you don't get to do that. They want you to just play a version of yourself.
Yeah.
Which you see constantly, same actors give the same performance, but just with different lines and different clothing. And I don't want to do that. I'm not interested in doing that. I want to be completely different.
What's the difference between Clive's directing style and Tony Randall's directing style?
That's a huge difference. Clive has an incredible, vast amount of energy, and is bubbling. His intellect and his creativity is like a never-ending gold mine. It's constantly bubbling over with these ideas, and which is quite infectious to work with, and very because Clive did the first Hellraiser. That was, we were creating the whole world from scratch. By the time Tony came in to do the Hellraiser 2, of course, we knew the world. We kind of knew what we were doing. So it was a different style of directing needed from him, really, because he was taking over the realms of I can't think of the word. He's taking over the creativity of something that was already there. If that makes any sense. I'm not making any sense to myself. Just rambling, really.
That's okay.
So yeah, he's taking over the. What's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. Yeah. So Tony was more laid back in his directing style. Would sit and listen and think about it. I think probably he also, because Hellraiser 1 was done on a very small budget, not much was expected of it. We didn't have the serious time constraints that you do when suddenly there's a load of money put onto a project. Suddenly you have people kind of watching your every cent that is being spent and looking at the clock constantly. I wasn't aware of that on Hellraiser particularly, but I was aware of it on Hellbound. So, and again, as the director of a franchise that you're joining, I think Tony felt those constraints more than Clive did. I'd say Tony is more laid back. Clive was more ebullient. Clive was more fun, but then I've known Clive for a long time, so I'm very, very biased.
Yeah. Is Ashley Lawrence good to work with?
Lawrence.
Ashley Lawrence.
Oh yeah. I mean, she was like 16 or something when we did that. 16, 17. So she was a baby,
Yeah.
I kind of really admired her. I was 25 when we did Hellraiser. For somebody, I think she'd had quite a career already because she'd done some soap operas, I think, over there.
Yeah.
So she knew exactly what she was doing. She was very confident, and I just thought, wow, you've travelled all the way around the world at 17, pretty much on your own, as far as I can remember, and you're walking onto a film set and working with complete strangers, and it doesn't seem to be phasing you at all. You just seem to be having a really good time. Yeah, no, Ashley's lovely. She's great. We spent some time in Atlanta sitting outside a room on towels like we were camping, and we had long midnight chats. and it was good to see Doug again, of course. Having worked with him in the French Theatre, to see Doug, it was nice to be reunited with him. And Nick Vince, who I was at drama school with, so he also kind of knew Clive, and that was why he was invited to do it.
Mm-hmm. Claire Higgins and Andy Robinson, were they great to work with?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of those more human characters, we didn't really meet until the rap party, because we were always in makeup, or asked to be in makeup like hours before they came in. So we were normally called kind of 5 a.m., 6 a.m., whereas they weren't kind of coming in till 7:38, by which time we were in the makeup. So they didn't know what we looked like. And then when we wrapped, they'd go straight home and we'd have to go into the whole process of having the makeup removed. So they never really knew what we looked like. And Doug tells us a story about the wrap party on Hellraiser where he was chatting to Claire, and he suddenly realised that Claire hadn't got a clue who she was talking to, even though she just spent 3 months filming with him, and he had to introduce himself. And it was the same with the rest of us. People didn't actually know who we were. So yeah, so our interaction with them was very different. And plus, we couldn't see them. Nick and I couldn't see them because we were blind, and we couldn't really hear them because we were pretty much deaf too. So
Yeah.
we got to know Claire and Andrew far more on the convention circuit than we ever did making the Hellraiser 1 and 2. And they are great. Andrew's amazing. What an incredible actor he is.
Yeah.
And Claire too. Clive says he puts the success of Hellraiser very much down to Claire's cleverly judged performance, because it very much is on her shoulders, because it's through her that the audience is being asked to accept the ridiculous, and it's through her performance that because you go along with her and the style of kind of film noir that she so magnificently takes on board, that you just believe her story, and that takes some doing, because it's a very unbelievable story.
Mm-hmm.
But it works, and I think that's great of Clive to give her. Clive also, I think when I've watched it back, and you look at it, and you look at Clive is such a fantastic writer, and you look at the storytelling and the narrative of it is absolutely superb. There's not a single scene or shot that isn't there that doesn't forward the narrative in some way. These days, there's so much padding put into projects to kind of make it meet the hour or the time limit. With Hellraiser, everything is there to progress the story to the next level, to the next section. Nothing is extraneous. It's just exquisite, beautiful stuff from him.
I totally agree with you. I think 1 and 2 are the best ones, and then after that, they just made too many. I just don't think that they came close as they did with the first two. Did you get offered to be in any of the other sequels?
No, we did the first one at Cricklewood Production Village here in London, and then the second one and Nightbreed were filmed in Pinewood Studios, just on the outskirts of London. And we always joked at the time, we've done Cricklewood, we've done Pinewood, the next one's got to be Hollywood. And it was to go. They moved production from London over to LA for number 3 onwards. But they could only swing a green card for Doug. So that's why it never happened for the rest of us. We were left at home, sadly. And then, of course, Clive moved over there as well, which kind of helped to take it all over there. I think since then they have actually filmed a few of them in Romania. I'm talking to Doug, because it was cheaper to do it over there. But I saw Hellraiser 3 and I saw Hellraiser 4, which I enjoyed. It was number 4, but I haven't seen any of the other ones. But
you're lucky.
Right. Yeah.
So then Clyde casted you in Nightbreed. How was that experience?
That was just joyful for me. Having spent 2 years playing butterball in the dark and in the quiet, suddenly be one of the characters that could turn up at 7:30 and just have a few tattoos applied to my arms and chest. And I had the only prosthetics I had for most of the shoot was a couple of prosthetic nipples, which I ended up sticking on myself. So to see everybody, to be able to move around, to be on this vast set. They built these amazing sets for Nightbreed, so it was a lovely experience. And also to meet one of my heroes, David Cronenberg, who I've admired for a long, long time.
Oh, yeah.
And to be involved in something that was on such a huge scale for the time. I think even now there's more individual kind of monster creatures than any other film that's ever been made in Nightbreed. And although the theatrical release wasn't exactly what we hoped it would be, at least now with the director's cut, which came out a few years ago, what we were aiming to make can finally be seen, even if it did take 27 years to get out there. I highly recommend it. If you haven't seen Nightbreed, get the director's cut. You can stream it, I think, on all the normal places. But don't see the theatrical one. Get the director's cut version.
Was Clive under a lot of studio pressure during the filming?
Yes. What happened with Nightbreed was, it was a big budget for the time. I think it was 25 million. I mean, it's nothing now, but for those days it was big budget. And there was an executive producer at Morgan, I think it was Morgan Creek,
Yeah.
who completely understood the premise that in this film the monsters were the goodies and the humans were the baddies, and that was the whole premise of the storyline, of the narrative, of everything about it. And then halfway through filming it, politics at Morgan Creek meant that our producer was taken off, and we were given a different executive producer. And this one didn't understand, even though we were halfway through filming it, didn't understand the premise of the film. And so we're saying, well, you can't have a film where the monsters are goodies. That doesn't work. And you're Clive Barker. You're known for a slasher film, and not that Hellraiser was a slasher film. So we've got to make this into a slasher film. And so he tried to change everything about it, and trying to make the monsters the baddies, when the whole idea of it was that they were the goodies.
Mm-hmm.
And he did that, and he got rid of our lovely editor that had been with us on Hellraiser and Hellbound, and put in his own editor and was changing everything. And Clive aged terribly in that year, just from the pressure that was put on him, and the way that his creative vision was just taken and torn apart by somebody else who had control of the purse strings. So it was a terrible shame. When I saw it for the first time in Leicester Square and I had its premiere over here in London, I was quite shocked, because the screenplay was just beautiful. It was so moving, and just the most exciting thing you could read. And then how that ended up on screen was so completely different. It was a great shame. And I think had that change of one person not happened, it would have been a very different story for all of us involved in it, to be honest, because I think it was groundbreaking for its time, Nightbreed, and it would have helped our careers enormously back in the 90s, instead of kind of destroying them for a while.
Yeah, I think
we've risen from the ashes. That's all right.
Yeah, I think because New World Pictures, who made the first two Hellraiser movies, I think because they went out they went out of business around that time. I think if they had made Nightbreed, maybe it would have turned out a little bit more to Clive's liking.
Yes, and also they would have given him. I'm not sure they would have had the budget to do it, but they would have given him more leeway and trusted him more than the new production company. I think it was Morgan Creek who took over and funded Nightbreed. They certainly ended up with the rights for it.
Yeah.
And it was Fox who distributed it, 20th Century Fox. But yes, so that's showbiz, sadly. It's one of the main reasons I think that Clive hasn't done as much directing as I would have liked him to have done, as his fans I think would have liked him to have done, is that by working as an author and by working as an artist, he is in complete control over what he does. But the moment he has to hand over that control to other people, then you're on dangerous ground unless they completely trust you. They were idiots not to do, but then it's easy to say that in retrospect.
Yeah. But the movie's a cult classic, and there's fans who love it, like me. So it's all good. So after Nightbreed, why? How come you didn't make another movie for so many years?
I worked in theatre here and abroad. So I toured. I did loads and loads of theatre shows in the UK, and then I also joined a company called Richmond Productions, and we toured internationally.
Mm-hmm.
So we toured all over the world for many years, and that just kept me really busy. To be honest, that's the truth of it. And then I saw through out of the blue that they were going to be making the Book of Blood into a film.
Mm-hmm.
And because I knew Clive well back in the days when he was writing the Books of Blood short stories, he actually based the original character of Simon McNeill on me. And so I emailed the casting director and the director and say, you'll have to give me a part in this. It was written about me, this whole thing. And they didn't reply, so I emailed Clive the next day, and the following day had these replies from the casting director saying, of course we'll give you a part in it. Yes. So suddenly that was my return to theatre, was again thankfully through Clive. But you're right, I hadn't done anything for a long time, and I was terrified. And originally the character I played in the Book of Blood was Scottish.
Mm-hmm.
And my Scottish accent wasn't brilliant, I have to admit. And and it was being filmed in Scotland with a Scottish crew. And the week before we shot it, I was on holiday with some Scottish friends. And so I was trying the accent out, and they were just laughing at me. And so my confidence was absolutely through the floor. And I thought, I can't go to Scotland in front of a Scottish crew and do a Scottish accent badly. That'll just destroy me. So I asked the director if he wouldn't mind if I didn't do it Scottish. And he said, no, that's fine. So that was good. Took some of the pressure off me. But I remember, because it had been so long since I'd been in front of a camera, that I was actually throwing up the day before we started shooting, just from terror of what I was letting myself in for again. But since then, I've done quite a lot of stuff, and so since that, and I've got much better about it, and I love it now. I never really felt that I kind of mastered the whole screen acting. I was trained as a theatre actor, and so the whole thing of screen acting is so totally different. And I never felt I'd really mastered it with Hellraiser and Nightbreed. So going back to the Books of Blood and the films that followed after that was really me just kind of working out what works for me.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm far more confident in what I do, and enjoy it enormously. And I've done some great. I've worked with Jo Froggatt, who I don't know if you've had Downton Abbey over there, but she's a wonderful, wonderful actress. On a film called Starfish that's shot over here. And Tony Todd did a film with him, Dead of the Night.
Nice.
And then this 6-part series that we're doing at the moment, which is fun. Which is great fun. And I did another film last year as well, You Are My Sunshine, which is a love story.
Mm-hmm.
And, since then it's lots more, and it was great fun doing the Roddy McDowell stuff too, which has had some nice responses. Thankfully, I saw Mr. Sarandon at one of the conventions. I was a little bit worried about how he'd react to me pretending to be Roddy, but he was fine. Chris Sarandon, isn't it? Yeah.
Nice.
Yes.
So, I'm glad you're back in the game. Do you have anything you're working on that you'd like to plug? I mean, you've mentioned a bunch of stuff, but like anything coming out soon?
Well, yes, the main thing would be the Dark Ditties series. So it's Dark Ditties with a D, not a T. That's what makes it memorable, I think. Episode 1 is The Offer, which is Agatha Christie meets Saw. Each episode is completely different, and that has Bobby Wilde in it from Hellraiser, Nick Vince from Hellraiser, Oliver Smith, who played Skin Man from Hellraiser, and Ken Cranham, who's in episodes 1, 3, and 4, who was Dr. Chenard in Hellraiser 2. So that's great fun, kind of tongue-in-cheek, horror comedy-ish. Episode 2 is Mrs. Wiltshire, when I play the 85-year-old woman. That was it's an incredibly tense and disturbing, very, very dark, I warn you, disturbing ghost story. That was described as John Carpenter directs Alan Bennett. So that's a pretty good description of that. Episode 3, which has just gone online, is called Finders Keepers.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a little bit like Snatch, so it's a kind of gangster, far more comedy than number 2. So it's like a gangster horror film. I play an accountant who is running away from the mob. And episode 4, which we're about to start, is called The Witching Hour. That should be online, I should think about May, June time. And that's about a group of TV ghost hunters who are not doing so well until they get a tip-off about this one